Today I'm going to show you how to make your AI automations 5 times more valuable by turning them into a custom app with Lovable. I've been recently building a lot with this powerful combination of Lovable and N8N, and you can use this to build custom front ends for your automations or even turn it into full-on AI-powered SaaS. So this is the app that we're going to build today. It's a Google Maps lead scraper. We just need to enter our search term, for example, recruiting agencies, and then have a location, let's say New York, and then have a number of leads that we want to scrape. So for example, let's keep it simple, just 10, start scraping. So this triggers our N8N workflow that goes ahead and takes those inputs and scrapes Google Maps for all those leads and prepares them in a Google Sheet. So we will get presented with it in a second. We can then go ahead and view the leads through this button and come to our Google Sheet where we see all the scrape information like the company, the city, address, their website, even emails and LinkedIn we're going to collect. And you can, of course, customize it to your need. We're going to build this out together from the scratch. So you're not going to be presented with any pre-built workflows over here. I really want you to see my thoughts process and follow me by every step. So by the end of this video, you have this full-on app for yourself. So I'm going to get started very simply and see what Lovable comes up with, and we just iterate from there. If you're wondering, I'm using an app called Whisperflow where I can just hold a key and it turns my text into speech, just makes the whole process way easier. So I want to create a super simple web app with a form using ShadCN components, like a very clean and minimal one, just a one-pager. The user input should just be 2 things, a search term and a location, and we need both input fields and a button called Start Scraping. And then when this button gets clicked, we want to trigger an N8N workflow in the backend that will scrape those Google Map things and then respond with Google Sheet URL. Don't worry about the backend for now. Just focus on the front-end UI and come up with it. All right, in case you're wondering, ShadCN is just a component library, a very modern one that is very popular. And I'm just give it some references. That's not ShadCN, that's ShadCN. And yeah, let's run with this. Let Bubble do its thing. And while we're doing this, we can already get into N8N. So let's just create a new workflow. I imagine the app having some kind of input form in the front end, as I just said. And then when we hit the button, we want to send the information to the backend to N8N. And we receive the information through a webhook. So I'm going to add a new webhook over here. This has to be post because we post some information from Lovable from our app into our backend over here. And yeah, so the steps I imagine, we want to have the input forms. So probably the location we need some search term, and let's see for the scraper what else we need. Then I want to do the scraping part, create a Google Sheet from it, and then send the Google Sheet link back into our app so the user can click on it and view the whole thing. So yeah, for this Google Maps scraping, I'm going to use Apify. So Apify is pretty much a tool where different developers already built scrapers for us. So we can just go ahead and use their scrapers. So whenever I look for a new scraper, I just go to the Apify store and then let's type in Google Maps Scraper. So right away we see the amount of users and the ratings, and usually the higher the ratings, that's gives us also like a high reliability of the scraper. And if we have more users, that just means it's more beneficial for the developer to keep this up to date. So let's just open the 2 of these, or like 3, and we can compare them. Usually they also separate by different pricing models. So there's either pay per event. So for example, this one says like for each scraped place, we pay like less than a cent. So for 1,000, this one would be like $4. And this one would be $6 per 1,000. So this one is just pay per results. This one is $9. I don't right away see a benefit of this one. So let's ditch this one. And those are from the same developer anyways. Just seems like he gives us more options for the output. So yeah, over here we just have geolocation. Even this one brings us contact enrichments, which we can go for. So yeah, let's just go with this one. So we now want to connect this Apify Scraper with our N8N backend workflow. And in order to do that, we go up here into the API endpoints. And we have a bunch of different endpoints, like just running the actor, running it synchronously and waiting for it to finish. A lot of details, but the one we need for us is running the actor synchronously and getting the dataset items, which basically means we send over our information to Apify and we keep waiting until the scraping is finished. And then we get already the data back and continue with our workflow. So that's the one we grab. We just need this endpoint over here. You can also go ahead and copy the whole one, but I always copy everything except for the token. I'll tell you in a second why. Go over here into N8N, and what we need over here is an HTTP request. And this one, as you see, is a post request. So post, come in with our URL. And we actually need some authentication. So the authentication, we cannot just, since it's in our account, it's going to cost our money. We always secure this endpoint over here. So when we send a request, Apify is checking, do we have the password to actually make this call, which is the token back here. I can show you it a little bit, so mine is not fully exposed. You can also copy the full URL with the authentication over here. What I do instead is I set the authentication token once, and then I just always need to copy these URLs and just save my Apify credentials within N8N. And since our authentication is in the URL over here, so this token is in the URL, we select generic, and it is a query authentication, right? You probably need to set up yours. I already have my Apify query auth here, which is basically exactly that. So if you need to set up yours, create a new credential, and then you come up to this window. And in order to set this up, we just give the exact name as over here. So we copy the token. This is the token name. And then over here, the value is everything that comes after here. So Apify underscore and copy the whole thing and then paste it over here, save it. And then you never need to worry about that again. You can always, you're always authenticated with like this Apify query auth. So I always like to set it up once. So let's call this one Apify Google Maps Scraper. All right. And then we also need to send it over somebody. And what I always do for that is I type in, like you can run manual searches within Apify over here by adding all the details manually. And I always do this once. So let's just do an example like real estate agents, location, let's do New York, number of places, maybe 10. And those are the values that we're gonna fill in later on from whatever we type in Lovable. So when you click over here to JSON, you see the whole body that needs to be sent over in order to run this search. So I'm going to copy all of this and then get down here, send body, and then using JSON and just paste the whole thing over here. And those are the variables that we later on need to replace. So we need to replace New York, real estate agents, and a number of places. So let's keep it with this for now and take a look into Lovable. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good start for what I imagined it to be. We just need a simple form. It should be just a one-pager for this tutorial over here. So yeah, there's two ways we can make changes to this. The first one is this edit button down here. So we can, and I would recommend whenever you can make simple add-ins, use this one because that's not costing you any credits with Lovable. So we can select any element and, for example, turn this into Google Maps Scraper, enter your search details below, and then yep, that's one example to make. So it makes the changes for you. That's a great start. I just want to make the white background to a very light gray to separate our form a little bit from the background. Keep the form in white. And then I just want to change what are you looking for into search term. And we also need a third input field that is a number that is called lead count. Let's run this. So yeah, adding a third field because we saw in the Apify Scraper that there's a third field that we need. Like we want to be able on the front end to send over the amount of leads that we're going to scrape. Great, so we now have our light gray background and also have the lead count over here. Now there's actually no functionality. So we see, please fill in all fields. All fields are required. Great that Lovable right away figured out that all fields are required. So we want to send over the information to our webhook. So let's go back over here. And I'm just gonna grab this webhook. For now, I'm gonna test it with this URL, and then come over here. So when someone clicks start scraping, first we want to check that all 3 inputs are filled in. Otherwise, mark the fields in red to let the user know all fields are required. And then send a webhook to this URL. Give it the URL over here. And I'm also saying with these variables in the body. So we want to send over our search term, our location, and our lead count. Let's run this. Okay, so it says I've updated the form, included a field validation. Let's test it out first. Please fill in the fields. The 10 is already provided. Let's test it out with 5, and then we say recruiting agencies in London. Let's do 5, and then start scraping. So it sends it over, and we already received it over here. Let's see. And in the bottom, we see the body that got sent over is recruiting agencies, London, and lead count. And in the next step, that's when we want to send this over to Apify. But I actually just gonna place one step in between, and that is going to be creating a Google Sheet, because I later on want to enter all these leads into a Google Sheet. So create spreadsheet, document, create. And then I want to give it a specific title. I want to do an expression and then do now, but in a specific format. That should be year, month, and day. So the current date. And then let's also include the search term we used. And then also let's include the location we used. And that's the title of the spreadsheet we're going to create. So create Google Sheet. And then next step, we're going to send over this information over to Apify. So let's run this step over here. We can pin this data so we don't have to send it over again. Let's just run the test workflow. Stop it. I don't want to send it over right now. We just need to replace our the fixed values that we put over here, replace it with our variables. So let's scroll down here. Where do we have it? Yep, here it is. So this is our location. Just gonna pull this over here, and then real estate agents, I want to replace that as well. Let's do this. That worked. And then we just need to replace the lead count. Cool. And then if you open this up, we already see how would this be sent over to Apify. So location query, London, 5, and recruiting agencies. And let's now actually go ahead and test this step. So we see it's running. And if we watch it in Apify, we can refresh this. It already ran 3 times because I started this not on purpose. So this one is currently running, crawling. Okay, so our 5 search results got scraped. And if we now see it in N8N, we can open it up and see our search results over here. Perfect. So a lot of information. So next step would be inserting that into our Google Sheet. So Google Sheet, we already have created it. So we now need to append or update the row in the sheet. We don't want to select it from our list. We want to do this dynamically. Go over Google Sheet over here. And we're just going to pull this one. And also this one is dynamically. Where do we find our sheet ID? Yep, it's over here. So there's an issue over here. We see map each column manually. There is no column header over here. And there's also, if you see this one, there's no option to create a column header. So I think we need to do a workaround over here, because the other option would be map manually, and that would like map all of those inputs over here, but I don't want to send out like every single detail. So I'm going to add it and add a new field in between. That's going to be a set node, where we first just map out all the fields that we want to send over and also name it correctly. So of course I want to first start with the company. That's the company name. Let's see what else could be interesting. Yeah, maybe let's start with the city first. And of course, you can fully customize it to however you need. I'm just guessing what information could be valuable for our user in the front end. So the website, maybe do we have a phone number? Yeah, we have. Opening hours, all of that is not really interesting. So let's also do emails, but I don't want to send over all of these emails. We can make this more complex and do some email verification process, but no, not for this one. So I just want to send over the first email. And then I know we're going to run into issues once if it doesn't find like any emails. If we send over an array like this with a number. So we just need to insert, like, I don't know how this character is called, and 2 of these. That is saying like either this one if you're provided with one, or nothing if we don't have this field over here. Otherwise, like if we don't have emails, it's looking for this specific field. And I know N8N runs into issues with that. And I also saw the LinkedIn down here. That's going to be the last one we send over. And we actually need the same as here. So you saw, even if that one gives you issues, it should be fine. All right, you see we get a lot of other stuff over here that you can customize for you. Maybe you want to grab the review count or the opening hours or whatever. You can just customize it. But for now, we want to keep it simple. And then over here in our Google Sheet, we can just map all of those automatically, because we're just gonna map these edit fields. And then we're gonna turn over this information over here. And then we're gonna update our sheet, or add leads to sheet. So let's run this again. I don't want to run the whole Apify Scraper again. Let's just go ahead and pin this data over here, and then we test the workflow. And then let's see the Google Sheet that we create over here. So do we have the link somewhere? It's not here. Or is it here? Nope. Let's go into this node. Pretty sure it's somewhere here. Yep. Spreadsheet URL. Let's copy the whole thing. All right. So let's see the Google Sheet. I see the phones receive an arrow. All right. Because they have this plus at the starting, and then we also don't see the date. Let's fix issue by issue. So for the phone, I think that should solve it if we just enter this one before. That should solve it, hopefully. And then for the format, what was the issue over here? Oh yeah, I see we also need to add these over here. And then we also see in the result 2025, okay. Let's run it again. We can already open this up. And there we go. We have the phone numbers in the right way. And we also have this. So the last step that I want to do is I want to send over this sheet link over here back to our front end in Lovable. So we can go ahead and click, or like have a button over there that opens this sheet. Of course, you can make this workflow like more complex. You could add some AI steps here or some email verification processes. Again, this is just an example over here that I like to do. Like one idea that just crossing my mind is we can also have the user's email or something over here in our front end if it would load. So I have the user email over here as kind of a lead magnet. Then they start scraping, and then they, for example, as the last step, receive an email with the lead list attached. That would be one way, but that's not what I want to do today. So we are going to respond to Lovable. Over here, we're not responding immediately. We are responding using the respond to webhook node. And that's also what we need to add here. So respond to webhook. And we want to respond with a JSON that is called Google Sheet. And we just need to bring our link from here. Again, got appended over here. Why can you not just put it inside here? Like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But anyways, yeah. So what's happening here is that Lovable is calling our webhook. We tell Lovable, okay, hey, please wait. We're doing something with your request. And then once all of this process is finished, we respond back with the Google Sheet link over here. So I'm going to unpin all this data and then set this into test mode and then test it again. So I'm going to set this up with, you will receive a response back from the webhook with the following body example. What I want to do is when someone presses start scraping, we want to send over the webhook to N8N. Then we want to turn this button start scraping into in progress with a little load animation. And once you receive back the webhook from N8N, that's when you turn this button into a view leads. And then when someone clicks on the View Leads button, we want to open up the Google Sheet URL that you received in a new tab. Let's see if that works. Let's first, oh, sorry. I forgot to send over the correct variable name. So I want to actually give it, let's hit save over here. And from our last response, I want to give it an example that is going to be sent. Oh, we don't have it. So let's first do some troubleshooting. And then, so let's first just run it. Let me update search form component. Just want to tell it you will receive the following body back from the hook. And then I want to make it some example over here. So it contains the Google Sheet link that we want to open up. Adjust accordingly. So that's the last thing I want to change over here, and then we will run another example. One last thing that I want to do over here is whenever we, for example, add 10 rows, we also get 10 results over here, but we only want to send back the webhook or trigger the webhook once, so we can just add a limit node over here. And yeah, that should actually be our full workflow. So let's test it out again. Test workflow. I'm going to refresh this one. Let's do financial services in Austin. Let's do 3. Start scraping. Our process is triggered. We receive back the Apify. And let's hope when I click on View Leads, we see the success message. Hell yeah, there we go. We have our Google Sheet over here, Financial Services Austin, like our 3 results over here. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to make 1 or 2 final touches. So, of course, I don't want to hit like every time test workflow over here. So I'm going to go ahead and instead of the test URL, I'm going to grab the production URL over here. And then let's say, please change the N8N start scraping URL to, and I'm going to paste it over here. And then also over here, I think what we should do is add another button below. So when we have view leads, where I can just start a new search. So I'll start new scrape, but I'm first, I'll let it do this one. And once we got our results back, I need another button below the view leads that is saying start new scrape. And that is resetting the form and taking us to the beginning again where we see the start scraping. Okay, that's the last change I want to make. And then I want to do one final test. All right, so it's finished. Let's see, let's do one final test. So I'm not putting it into the test mode, but I do actually need to set this to active. So let's go over here. I'm going to reset our form. And then that's, for example, search for SEO agencies in Atlanta. For our final search, we do a little bit more. We do 10, start scraping. And here we go. It even reset like everything, and we have a new final page. We can go over here, see view leads. Have our full list of 10 SEO agencies in Atlanta. That we got returned. We have their website, address, phone, and also the LinkedIn of some of these that we found. And then we can even start a new scrape. All right, so that was our build for today. Of course, you can turn this even more into a more advanced web app by connecting it with Supabase in the backend and store all the history of the past searches and also authenticate so an actual user can log in. But that was just the first example of it. I'm going to create more videos on this channel, like a full-on beginner Lovable tutorial, and we're going to build further apps over here because I really believe in this powerful combination of having an AI-powered backend and some front end. That's just a beautiful combination. So yeah, make sure to subscribe to not miss any upcoming videos. And also, if you want, you can check out our school community. I'm going to add a full Lovable module over there where I'm going to place all my best practices, and even the full course is upcoming. So make sure to check it out. And also, if you want to build out your custom AI-powered app or system, feel free to reach out to me through the first link in the video description. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.